And the fade out. All right. I'm not going to play the whole thing today. So this just got from my friend Fermi's Paradox. Get it? Fermi's Paradox. He says, nightmarish sci-fi dystopian shit right here. Hope you're well. So it's a Twitter thread by Cory Doctorow, who is a sci-fi author. I haven't read much of his stuff. I mean, I look over at my bookshelf, and the only title I see by him over there is it's one of his lesser knowns. It's called For the Win. But he's good friends with Charles Stross, the Scottish science fiction author. They wrote a book together called, I think they called it The Rapture of the Nerds, talking about the singularity. So, I have not read this. This will be a cold reading and all new to me. AI researchers talk about centaurs, machine-human collaborative teams that outperform either computers or people. The greatest chess players in the world are collaborations between chess masters and software. So here's an Amazon Prime van, but we've got the upside-down arrow, so instead of a smile, it's a frown. And the glowing red eye of HAL 9000 in the windows and windshield. But not all centaurs are created equal, continues Cory Doctorow. A reverse centaur is what happens when a human is made to assist a machine rather than the other way around. Amazon may not have invented the reverse centaur, but they perfected it. So here's a link. We're going to open that in a new tab. Again, this is all new to me. I literally saw this tweet or this message from my friend as the music was playing. After I turned on the music, I just glanced at Twitter quickly. Reverse centaurs and the failure of AI, permalink. The idea of centaurs comes from automation theorists. It describes a system where a human and a machine collaborate to do more than either one could do on their own. The world's best chess players are centaurs, grandmasters paired with software. So I'm not going to, I think this would be an endless branching chain if I followed every link. While centaurs hold out enormous promise for extending human capabilities and making our lives better, they have a dark corollary, the reverse centaur. That's a system where the machine uses the human for support, not the other way around. Amazon's Mechanical Turk is an example of this, a cloud of low-waged, precarious piece workers that you can tap on demand to do cognitive work that software can't do, mediated through an automation layer that makes the human dimension of labor invisible. Writing in the FT, I guess that's Financial Times, Sarah O'Connor, no, seriously, describes how she came to reverse her once optimistic position on automation after the brutal conditions of warehouses were made worse by reverse centaur automation. Warehouse robots can carry heavy loads and roll over endless miles without complaint. These are two of the most physically punishing elements of a human warehouse worker's job, so you'd think that the introduction of these robots would make workers' lives better. But that's not how it plays out. There's one task warehouse robots are really bad at: picking. I struggle to find the robot that can handle a bag of plaster of Paris, a bit for a jackhammer, a galvanized steel garbage can, a saw blade, and a 5-gallon bucket of paint. Human hands can do all those things, when powered by human eyes and brains. Warehouse automation has transformed warehouse workers into adjuncts for robots, not the other way around. The robots set the pace, literally. The average worker picks roughly 100 times per hour if walking around, but more than 300 times an hour in the automated system. This pace is set by the robot, and the repetitive, high-intensity, standing, bending, and reaching labor has caused injury rates to increase every year in proportion to the degree of automation in Amazon warehouses. O'Connor finishes her piece by noting, dehumanization and intensification of work is not inevitable. In other words, we must make sure the robots work for us and not the other way around. This is extremely well said, absolutely crucial. The problem here isn't automation, it's power. The workers whom the robots could benefit are instead harnessed to the robot to the benefit of the shareholders. Workplace democracy, aka unionization, aka the thing Amazon has pulled out every dirty trick to prevent, is the difference between centaur utopia and reverse centaur dystopia. Immanuel Kant's formula of humanity told us that treating people as a means was a violation of the supreme principle of morality. Humans should be served automation, not harnessed to it. I think that would read better if the word by was in there. Humans should be served by automation, not harnessed to it. The important thing about technology isn't namely what it does, but who it does it to and what it does it for. Gorgeous slip-cased editions of public domain classics. Huh. That's it? That was short. All right. So back to Cory Doctorow and his Twitter feed, or his Twitter thread. Take the Mechanical Turk, a massive cohort of precarious sub-minimum wage piece workers who do human decision support for automated processes. There's a reason that South Asian labor activists say AI stands for absent Indians. On Amazon warehouse automation, Amazon warehouse robots can't pick and pack the items they locate, so they shuttle them to human pickers at a dangerous tempo. The more automated an Amazon warehouse becomes, the more injuries it reports. What's this? Why I was wrong to be optimistic about robots. So, okay, that's one of the pieces just quoted for the Financial Times, which I won't be able to read because I don't subscribe anymore, but we'll click on it just the same. Sometimes they throw up stuff for free. Oh, okay, this is one of them. Why I was wrong to be optimistic about robots. Humans are being crunched into a robot system working at a robot pace. I used to be a techno-optimist. I thought a fresh wave of automation could liberate us from monotonous and arduous work. Online retail warehouses seemed a perfect example. Here was an expanding sector where low-paid pickers had to walk up to 15 miles a day to collect customer orders from shelves, directed and monitored by wristbands or headsets. I had interviewed warehouse workers who would smear their blistered feet in Vaseline to get through the day. The sooner we invented robots to perform these robot-like jobs, I figured, the sooner humans would be free to do something less grim. But now the robots have arrived, I realize I was wrong. The surge in demand for online shopping caused by the pandemic has accelerated warehouse automation. Research group Statista predicts the global warehouse automation market will increase from $15 billion in 2019 to $30 billion by 2026. But robots aren't replacing the picker job entirely, because human fingers remain better than machines at handling varied objects. Quote, I struggle to find the robot that will be able to handle a bag of plaster of Paris, a bit for a jackhammer, a galvanized steel garbage can, a saw blade, and a 5-gallon bucket of paint, one warehouse manager explained to researchers at the University of California, Berkeley. Instead, many warehouse jobs are becoming part human, part robot. This is transforming the work, not necessarily for the better. Chuck is an autonomous robot trolley which leads a human picker through a warehouse from one shelf to the next. 6 River Systems, which sells or rents the robots to warehouse operators such as DHL, XPO Logistics, and Office Depot, says the technology relieves strain on workers because they no longer have to push a trolley around. But Chuck also sets a relentless pace. Research shows that when associates pace themselves, they slow down. Its website explains. A 6 River Systems business case report says workers who set their own pace travel only half as fast as when they follow Chuck, and their speed without Chuck also fluctuates wildly. Amazon, which bought robotics company Kiva for $775 million in 2012, is more ingenious. In its automated warehouse, robots bring the shelves to the pickers, who stand stationary instead of walking all day. That means no more blisters or wasted time between picks. The average worker picks roughly 100 items per hour if walking around, but more than 300 items an hour in the automated system, according to news reports. But while the job has improved in some ways, it has worsened in others. Standing all day is hard on the body, as is reaching, twisting, bending, and pulling without being able to set your own pace. An investigation last year by the Center for Investigative Reporting found that, for each of the past 4 years, injury rates have been significantly higher at Amazon's robotic warehouses than its traditional ones. The New York Committee for Occupational Safety and Health, an organization of workers, unions, and health and safety professionals, surveyed 145 workers at an automated Amazon warehouse on Staten Island. 2/3 experienced physical pain while working, especially in their feet, knees, backs, ankles, shoulders, and hands, and 42% continued to be in pain when not at work. I know that feeling. Not from Amazon, because I was customer service at Amazon, but I have worked warehouse jobs, and they fucking suck. And that was without robots. These roles may be automated eventually too, but that technology is at least a decade away, according to most experts. And, why spend a bunch of money on expensive robots when humans are dirt cheap? There's so many of them with so little to do. In the meantime, humans are being crunched into a robot system working at a robot pace. This brings clear benefits to companies and their customers, who get their deliveries quickly and cheaply, but there are costs to workers and society. Musculoskeletal disorders, for example, are a major cause of disability and illness later in life, which adds to the taxpayer bill for benefits and health care. According to the OECD, 14% of jobs in rich countries are highly automatable, while a further 32% are likely to change because many, but not all, the job tasks can be automated. Much academic and media attention has been paid to the jobs that might disappear. What's happening inside warehouses is a reminder to worry about how the remaining jobs will be transformed, which is to say, how they will suck. Dehumanization and intensification of work is not inevitable, but a different outcome will require different choices and a different distribution of power in the workplace. If we are to have robot colleagues, we need to design processes around the strengths and frailties of the humans, with ways for them to voice problems, propose solutions, and claim a share of the productivity gains. In other words, we must make sure the robots work for us and not the other way around. So, here's a letter in response to this column. I was going to say, let's read some of the comments, because the Financial Times is a very expensive newspaper. Even if you just get the electronic edition, they still want like $60 a month for the damn thing. So it's aimed at the moneyed classes. It's written for them, whereas this is obviously goes against that grain, but they publish it with a built-in rejoinder. So let's read the rejoinder. Oh, can't read the rejoinder unless you pay. Okay, but look at the title. Instead of scapegoating, try working with robots. Well, why don't you try working with robots, dude? So, no comments available? All right. Let's go back to Cory Doctorow. Reverse centaurism isn't the only human life-destroying area where Amazon leads. It's also a leader in chickenization, a labor economics term that comes from the U.S. poultry industry, where workers are misclassified as independent contractors. Yeah. The poultry packers have divided the country into non-competing territories, so independent farmers only have one vendor who will take their birds. The farmers have to buy their chicks from that monopolist, who also specs their feed, medicine, and housing. The farmers are told everything except what they'll be paid. When the farmers bring their birds to market, the monopolist exploits its information asymmetry advantage to offer just enough for the farmer to start over again, but not enough to get ahead or out of debt. Chickenization is like avian flu, prone to jumping its niche and spreading virulently in every corner of the world. Chickenization is now rampant across all labor markets, from call centers to medical care. Amazon loves chickenization too. Its flex delivery program uses employees misclassified as independent contractors paying sub-minimum wage. The company subjects these drivers to constant overt and covert surveillance. I'm just going to pause here and say, you probably hear me complain from time to time about not having enough money to live the way I'm expected to live and to fulfill my obligations. But I do get to sit here in a chair and talk into a microphone or draw on a Cintiq to make my living. So I've done this sort of brutal physical work before when I was younger. And I would much rather be in the situation that I am now than make 1.5 times as much and do that really shitty sort of work. But as bad as Flex is, it's not the end state of Amazon's innovative workplace terrors. For that, you need to look at delivery service partners, a workforce of chickenized reverse centaurs. This is some peak innovation right here. So delivery service partners, DSP. Writing for Wired, Kate Haar describes the suffocating horror of chickenized reverse centaurs. Amazon claims that DSP drivers don't work for them. Instead, they work for entrepreneurs who buy Amazon delivery vans and pay drivers to operate them. Some Amazon drivers have had enough. Can they unionize? All right, I'm not saying I'm going to read this, but we'll open this in another tab. Let's continue with Cory Doctorow here. There are 58,000, what's the DSP stand for again? Delivery service partners, okay. There are 158,000 delivery service partners drivers working for 2,500 delivery service partners. They wear Amazon uniforms and drive Amazon vans. Amazon packs those vans with reverse Centaur gear, Rabbit, real-time tracking, Mentor, automatic driving scoring, and Netrodyne, a mesh of always-on AI spy cameras. Remember the article? I read this, or maybe I didn't read it all, but I certainly summarized it on a C-Realm podcast when I was living in New York. It was an article by Esther Kaplan called The Spy Who Fired Me. That was probably like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. That's the better part of a decade ago. And things, if you go back and read that article now, which I haven't, but I imagine if I did, it would seem quaint. Things are so much worse now. Amazon DSP vans have Netrodyne cameras inside and out, including one that is always trained on drivers' faces, performing digital phrenology on them, scoring them based on junk science micro-expression detection and other imaginary metrics. Oh, God, that is frickin' nightmarish. That's the most nightmarish thing so far in all of this. Now DSP drivers aren't just expected to match an impossible machine pace by limiting water intake so bathroom breaks won't derail the 300 packages they deliver during a 10-hour shift. Netrodyne cameras are next-level reverse centaurism. They make sure you're not yawning while you deliver 300 packages during a 10-hour shift, and if you do, they deduct points and notify your manager if you yawn. And because they're both chickenized and reverse centaurs, DSP drivers are left with little recourse. Amazon doesn't allow any individual DSP to 40 vans. I don't understand that sentence. That means that if the DSP drivers unionize, Amazon can just cut its contract with the DSP and, oh, I see. So each van owner is a partner, and no partner can have more than 40 vans. So if any drivers try to unionize, there's only 40 of them in the union. Amazon just cuts their ties with that DSP. That means that if a DSP's drivers unionize, Amazon can just cut its contract with the DSP and put them all out of work. Unions are maybe finally coming to Amazon's U.S. ops. The union drive at the Bessemer, Alabama warehouse could be the start of a new era for Amazon and its workers. Fair wages and safe working conditions to the workforce that we've all come to depend on. I'm actually contemplating not renewing my Prime membership. I'm not ordering much from Amazon these days. I did just order a box of cat litter because it's too much for me to carry home from the store. But I feel sorry for every worker along the route who's going to have to heft that unexpectedly heavy box. Anyway. But that won't help DSP drivers win wage and condition parity with other drivers in the industry. UPS's unionized workers make $38 an hour. God damn. Plus benefits and pensions. DSP doesn't work for Amazon. They work for an Amazon contractor. But as Harrington points out, there is precedent for this kind of fragmented workforce attaining labor justice. In the 1980s, large firms fired their custodial staff and replaced them with subcontractors working for staffing firms. The Justice for Janitors movement targeted the companies where these workers showed up for work, not the companies that sent them a paycheck. This got all the subcontractor janitors ready to unionize. They signed union cards en masse and doubled their wages. Justice for Janitors didn't have to contend with the kind of digital controls Amazon has mastered, but they also didn't have access to the Discord and Reddit forums where DSPs are organized today. And now Biden's NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, is seeking to strike down Trump's annihilation of the joint employer classification that Obama used to force McDonald's franchises to bargain with their workers. Cory Doctorow, the 1935 National Labor Relations Act was wise to worker misclassification and allowed workers to provided service to a company they unionize. Okay, I think that's allow workers who provided service to a company to unionize. The Tax-Hartley Act of 1947 gutted this protection by excluding contractors from collective bargaining. Flex drivers and Uber drivers and other gig economy chickenzees, like that, are prisoners to this exemption. And the PRO Act, which is headed for a showdown with the GOP in the Senate, would fix it, restoring the right to unionize. Follow Amazonda 3 to learn more about Amazon's drivers' campaign for fair wages. Well, I'm going to do that right now. Follow. All right. Image. Todd Van Hoosier, modified. Okay. I'm not going to follow all those images. So, Gideon Isakov, replying to Cory Doctorow. Is this still true? Is there a human-machine chess team that can beat AlphaZero? Pundits talked this way about bicycling in the 1890s. Oh, I just love these kinds of comments. It's like, I can think of some historical example that is superficially similar to what you're talking about now. Therefore, what you're talking about now is no big deal. In fact, yeah, we'll leave out the insult. All right. Alrighty, let's pop over to Wired. Wired access for just $10 a year. What a deal. I actually have a year's worth of Wired magazine issues here because I could subscribe for a year for $5, but I found I never read them. They just stacked up. And even though they're a couple years old now and, getting stale, the information in them is not as current as it used to be. I'm still reluctant to throw them out, and yet I'm pretty certain I'm not going to read them. Anyway. AI surveillance cameras, punishing workloads, low pay, worker complaints are piling up, and so are the roadblocks. Got 3 letters for you guys. IED. This is not financial advice. The Netrodyne cameras were the last straw. For the past year, Casey had been working as a driver for one of Amazon's delivery service partners, the company's network of last-mile delivery contractors. On busy days, she'd cart nearly 300 packages to 200 stops in a 10-hour shift, one stop every 3 minutes. Skipping lunch and limiting her water intake so bathroom breaks wouldn't cause her to fall behind. If her icon turned red on the dispatcher's tracking screen indicating a delay, she knew she might get a call. Casey, not her real name, was sick of the group stops, multiple nearby stops marked as one, despite sometimes falling blocks apart. She was sick of the cattywampus routing, making her retrace her tracks to accommodate individual delivery windows. She was sick of the oppressive monitoring app docking points from her safety score for hard braking or speeding up, even to avoid a collision. Low scores meant potential lost hours or even termination. Now her boss was about to stick an AI camera in her face that would record her every expression, potentially dinging her for yawning. When the app asked for permission to do just that, she declined. She put in her 2 weeks' notice. Casey also logged on to a DSP driver Discord channel to vent. Despite their largely solitary work days and Amazon's watchful eye, drivers use online forums like Reddit and Discord to commiserate. Although, given reports of the company monitoring drivers on social media, anxiety about potential sleepers abounds. People were pissed about the cameras. They griped about yet another layer of micromanagement and worried about their privacy. So did Congress. Later that week, Casey got a DM from Ron, a Canadian DSP driver. He was fed up too. Casey and Ron withheld their real names out of fear of jeopardizing their jobs. Last month, the two launched an informal online survey to see whether other drivers were facing similar issues. Some 500 people have responded so far. They complained about the relentless pace, about the Mentor app surveilling and scoring their every move, about feeling the need to cheat to get around its hypersensitivity. Casey said her boss advised her to download Mentor on a secondary phone to avoid touching it. They complained about pay. 80% of respondents make between $15 and $17 an hour. And the cameras. The fucking cameras. The stupid fucking cameras. Inspired by the union election at an Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama, Ron added a question about whether drivers should unionize. 9% of respondents said maybe. 87% said yes. For Amazon workers across the country, the Bessemer election is sparking conversations about their own working conditions and how they might improve them. On the road to becoming the nation's second largest employer, the company has faced a slew of criticism over its labor practices, from warehouse safety to allegations of discrimination and harassment by senior staff. As the people who literally hold the keys to the company's increasingly speedy shipping last-mile delivery drivers could have enormous collective power. That's why Jeff Bezos is so keen for those drone deliveries. The rub is, none of them are technically Amazon employees. Not the flex drivers distributing Amazon totes out of their own cars, not even the DSP drivers in Amazon-branded uniforms driving Amazon-branded vans. For those who want a union, this throws up some major roadblocks. Amazon's DSP network spans 8 countries and employs 158,000 drivers. Each one of those drivers is a subcontractor, employed by one of 2,500 DSPs that contract with Amazon to deliver its packages. Amazon provides a suite of equipment that DSPs use to surveil their employees. There's the Rabbit, an electronic scanning device that tracks drivers in real time, the Mentor app, which monitors and scores their driving behavior, and now, increasingly, the always-on AI cameras that record inside and outside the van, a concern not only for drivers but for anyone on the other side of its 4 lenses. Amazon can reward high-performing DSPs with additional routes and cut poor performers, putting constant pressure on owners to keep drivers moving swiftly. In a statement, an Amazon spokesperson said, "We're proud to empower more than 2,000 delivery service partners around the country, small businesses that create thousands more jobs and offer a great work environment with pay of at least $15 an hour, healthcare benefits, and paid time off." Amazon launched the DSP program in 2018 as part of an effort to gain more control over its shipping operations by bringing them in-house, but not too in-house. To help DSP owners start their businesses, Amazon offers assistance like financing and negotiating rates on insurance and van leases. In turn, the company offloads the overhead of maintaining employees, as well as liability for accidents and workplace violations. As reported by BuzzFeed and ProPublica, has shown, as reporting by BuzzFeed and ProPublica has shown, safety concerns turn out to be far from hypothetical. According to some estimates, DSP profit margins run low by industry standards, putting pressure on labor costs. For comparison, the Teamsters say the UPS drivers they represent make an average of $38 an hour plus benefits, including a pension. And since Amazon caps the number of vans per partner at 40, no one business can get too powerful. Drivers can unionize, but only on a firm-by-firm basis. If one DSP unionizes, Amazon has other options. If any one of them gets out of order and starts threatening to strike or demands more wages, then boom, the axe comes down, says Mark Wolfrat, president of MWPVL International, a logistics consulting firm that closely monitors Amazon. They're gone, and they bring somebody else in. That's exactly what a group of Michigan drivers alleged in 2017. Employees of an Amazon contractor named Silver Star Delivery voted 22-7 to unionize with the Teamsters. Less than a month later, several union supporters were fired. A few months after that, the firm closed its Michigan location. Workers filed an unfair labor practice charge with the National Labor Relations Board, alleging unlawful retaliation, while the retaliatory firing charge was dismissed due to insufficient evidence. Silver Star paid over $15,000 in back pay as part of a settlement. Amazon avoided liability, arguing that it wasn't the driver's joint employer. Shortly after the incident, according to a BuzzFeed report, the company held meetings with other DSP owners on how to avoid union drivers at their own companies. No Amazon drivers have attempted a union vote since. While the deck appears stacked wildly in Amazon's favor, there is precedent for successfully unionizing a large subcontracted workforce. In the 1980s, for example, multinational corporate building owners began outsourcing janitorial work to subcontractors. Janitors saw their wages and benefits slashed and wanted union protections. Over a period of years, they launched a series of escalating walkouts and demonstrations nationwide under the rallying cry, "Justice for Janitors." Instead of pressuring the relatively powerless subcontractors, organizers aimed their sights at the master contractor, in that case, the building owners, says Chris Romberg, a Fordham University sociology professor who researches labor strikes. They built up solidarity so they could pressure the master contractor and say, "You've got to put enough money out there so that your subcontractors can pay a decent wage." It wasn't until they had everybody lined up that they'd go for the union election at all the subcontractors. This eventually worked. For some janitors, their pay and benefits doubled. Activists have also won gains with campaigns that have necessarily ended in union drives. More recently, non-union fast food workers have focused on demonstrations to attract public attention and urge lawmakers to raise the minimum wage. Since they began, 9 states plus D.C. have passed $15 minimum wage laws, and President Biden has voiced support. When the Fight for 15 movement started in 2012, Romberg says nobody thought that had a chance. Amidst the campaign, the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, sought to establish McDonald's as a joint employer, which could have paved the way toward holding the company responsible for its franchisees' labor practices and potentially compelled it to bargain with any unions that formed. In 2014, the Obama-era National Labor Relations Board, or NLB, sided with the SEIU, expanding the definition of a joint employer to include not just franchisors, but companies that hire subcontractors, provided the employer had the ability to exert indirect control over the workers' conditions. The Trump administration reversed the rule, but in yet another volley just last week, Biden's Labor Department proposed reverting to a more expansive definition of joint employer, a proposal that's open for public comment until next month. Depending on the outcome, the new rule could impact not just claims like McDonald's, but Amazon's DSP network as well. Amazon's flex drivers face even rockier terrain. These gig workers make up a smaller share of the company's driver pool. And like Uber and Lyft, Amazon considers them independent contractors. This means they lack the protections afforded employees, like minimum wage guarantees, paid time off, and protection from harassment and discrimination. They're the kind of labor issues that might drive workers to unionize, that is, if flex drivers could. When the National Labor Relations Act passed in 1935, anyone providing a service to a company in exchange for money was considered an employee, says Catherine Fisk, a UC Berkeley labor law professor, and as such had the right to unionize. Then the 1947 Taft-Hartley Amendment excluded independent contractors from NLRA rights. The thing is, quote, "It's not clear who independent contractors are," says Fisk. "The statute doesn't effectively define them. At various times, the NLRB has held that regardless of whether a company designates someone as an independent contractor, if a company effectively controls their working conditions and workers are economically dependent on the company, they are employees. Close quote. Quote, essentially, what companies like Uber have argued is that the law should go back to the way it was circa 1920, when not only did most workers have no statutory right to unionize, but federal law treated unions as illegal conspiracies in restraint of trade, Fisk says. In my view, that's fundamentally inconsistent with the language of the NLRA and the language of the federal antitrust law, but it's an issue that will have to get fought about. Close quote. Okay, I just realized I don't have a... Oh, I do have one. Here, I'll bring it over here. There we go. Restream chat. Looks like a whole bunch of nothing, though. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Ben Rubber. So this is on the topic of something that you posted yesterday. I haven't listened to this yet. Sarah O'Connor. Laugh out loud. I can't believe it. Sup, KMO. Hey, Ben. That's fucked up. I like to yawn even when I'm not tired. Sometimes you can't help it. This information is actually causing me physical discomfort. Try living it. I feel like my grandparents. Although they never complained per se, they always reminisce about what used to be better. I think when they were my age, they were too busy working to notice any changes. Ben Rubber says they're influencing out of work consumption. To keep a higher score, I would have to stop drinking as much coffee and beer outside of work. Morning coffee and beer at night, 3 to 4 days a week. Nah, Ben, coffee in the morning and beer in the evening, just perfect. Just don't overdo it. Well, just drink a little bit, like super strong espresso, just no water. Otherwise, you're going to have to stop and pee. Who was it? I forget. But someone was telling me about how Amazon scientifically tries to make their workforce diverse so that they have too many internal differences and don't unionize. Yeah, sounds like Amazon. Amazon is like the West Indian Tea Company, ruthless. Isn't that the East India? Yeah, it's the East India Company. Raising the minimum wage is pointless because within a very short period of time, everything else goes up in price in proportion to maintain the previous equilibrium. I don't know that that's true. I understand the logic of it, but I don't know that it necessarily holds in the complexity of the real world. Hey guys, I got to go reheat my coffee. I will finish this Amazon article in a minute, and then I'm going to get to drawing. On the heels of their Prop 22 victory in California, companies like Uber and DoorDash have formed a coalition and begun lobbying to enshrine a new third category of worker into law. In exchange for industry-wide collective bargaining rights, workers would essentially forfeit the protections afforded employees under the NLRA, things like minimum wage, unemployment insurance, and paid time off. But some legal experts argue that gig workers already are employees under current federal law, despite corporate claims to the contrary. The PRO Act, which passed in the House last week, affirms this view. It establishes an ABC test for classifying workers as independent contractors. To pass the test, a worker would need to be free from company control, not perform a job that's core to the company's business, and have an independent business doing work of the same nature. Unless they satisfied these criteria, workers would have the right to unionize. The bill, however, is unlikely to clear the Senate unless Democrats first pass filibuster reform, which they have no intention of doing. Now that's some hot coffee. Although Proposition 22 dealt a huge blow to gig workers' protections, it spawned a flurry of organizing, with advocacy groups like Gig Workers Rising, We Drive Progress, and Rideshare Drivers United coordinating protests and opposition campaigns. Many of these groups continue to fight efforts to duplicate Prop 22 type laws nationwide. All right. Oh, there's more. Meanwhile, the Amazon logistics juggernaut continues full speed ahead. In just 4 short years, the company has gone from shipping less than 10% of its own products to a whopping 2/3 of them in 2020. Per estimates by MWPVL and Rakuten Intelligence, Randy Corgan, director of the Amazon project at the Teamsters, calls this a defining moment in transportation. When Corgan began as a dock worker in the freight industry in 1990, he made $15 an hour within his first year. Wow, in 1990, that was good money. More than $11 above minimum wage at the time. Quote, I had a hard time surviving at that time on $15. Now we're putting Amazon on the back 30 years later for paying we're patting Amazon on the back for paying $15 an hour. It's mind-boggling, close quote. Of the four major local delivery providers in the U.S., Amazon, FedEx, UPS, and USPS, only UPS and the Postal Service are unionized. Amazon's comparably low-wage model, Corgan says, leads to a revolving door of workers. Of course. People give it their all for a few months, burn out, get hurt, whatever, have some life event that throws them off their game and they get fired. Yeah, and that's the business model. That just is the business model. Ron, the DSP driver who created the survey, calls Amazon's delivery service, quote, profoundly useful, close quote, particularly during the pandemic. Quote, but the way people who bring the service are treated doesn't match, he says. Amazon found a way to regress working conditions in North America. It's such a huge damper on all work that's been done by people fighting for better labor conditions, close quote. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The whole glorious, shiny, whiz-bang AI techno revolution has just afforded the big players an opportunity to undo decades, if not centuries, of accumulating progress by organized labor. So they're going to have to do it all over again. Ron, the DSP driver who created the survey, calls Amazon's delivery service... Oh, I already read that. Let's see. Next paragraph. Ron started as a DSP driver late last year during the holiday crunch. It didn't take much to get started. His road test consisted of making a U-turn in an empty parking lot. Wow. He has held several jobs, but he'd never felt as fatigued as he did delivering for Amazon. During the holiday blitz, he'd skip breaks and pee in bottles to avoid falling behind. One of his group chat members shared a photo of 2 urine-filled plastic water bottles left in a van by a previous driver. Amazon said its app provides a list of nearby restrooms and alerts drivers when it's time for a break. After working 4 of 5 days, I couldn't focus at home. I couldn't unwind. I just had to lie down, Ron says. I later learned that these were symptoms of fatigue. When you're overworked, you can't focus on resting or talking to people. You just lie down, rinse, and repeat. Close quote. One moment in particular stuck with him. It was during a snowstorm that had forced many businesses in the area to close. Ron was assigned a typical 180-stop route. He caught glimpses of customers warming themselves by fireplaces as slush soaked through his boot seams. When he finished his deliveries, frozen and spent, the dispatcher asked him to make a rescue stop, Amazon's term for assisting other drivers who fall behind schedule. Ron pleaded to go home, but the dispatcher insisted, so he dragged himself to the other driver's van. I'm younger, and I was helping out this guy in his 40s or 50s. He was panting, and his shoes were not even winter shoes. His feet were completely soaked, Ron recalls. The image of a middle-aged man panting with soaked shoes making deliveries for a trillion-dollar company. That's when I thought, something has to change. Now he's focused on raising awareness. Earlier this month, he and Casey launched a Twitter account, Amazon Delivery Associates for Change and Direct Action. Quote, if we tweet one suggestion a day, we'll have enough for months, he says. Close quote. Next, they plan to start an Instagram page. Casey never finished out her 2 weeks. During a particularly harrowing group stop involving a list of non-working apartment codes, her dispatcher called and pushed her to speed up. She couldn't take it anymore. She told the boss she wasn't coming in the next day. Now she delivers for FedEx Express as a full employee. Quote, the pay is better. I have actual good benefits. They don't micromanage. I get my breaks, she says. It's 10 times better, close quote. Whether it stays that way will have to get fought about. For now, she's just happy to enjoy her lunch. All right. I guess rehydrating is my biggest downfall. A biology teacher described how awesome water is for metabolic function, and I've been more sensitive to quenching my thirst ever since. KMO, enlighten me regarding raising the minimum wage. Okay. Costs rise independent of buying power. Other factors intrude. Regulatory factors, in some instances, but very, very rarely, scarcity of certain resources. But think about things that rise much, much faster than people's buying power. I'm talking about rent. I'm talking about college tuition. These price rises are not linked to people having more money to spend. In fact, the reverse is true. Minimum wage hikes have not. I mean, we haven't had one in almost 20 years. They have not kept pace with inflation. People's actual earning power is falling even as prices continue to rise. So it's not a one-to-one correlation. It's not a direct mechanism of prices being determined by the amount of money that people buying the products have to spend. Both coffee and alky dehydrate. But coffee seems to have beneficial effects on the liver in reasonable amounts, which may negate the deleterious aspects of alcohol. You wish. On the liver, perhaps, not the brain. Well, Dutch. That's because Federal Express is federal. No, it's not. It's not. Federal Express is not a government agency. That's just a name. It is a private company. Okay, I see what you're saying, KMO. All right. But, even if rising wages does drive inflation of certain products, that only working class people buy and that more wealthy people don't necessarily need and can do without, it's still not an argument against increasing, wages, because prices are rising in other areas that people have to keep up with. Here in the U.S., we have a, what do they call it? There's a cost of living standard. That's not the name of it, but it's a metric that describes, how much a dollar buys, really. And the government keeps reformulating it. They have, what do they call, hedonic adjustments. So if people used to buy steak, and then because steak got expensive, they couldn't afford it anymore, they switched to hamburger. Well, then you remove steak from the list of items that they use to calculate this, this index. And if hamburger becomes too expensive and people start buying hot dogs, well, then you remove hamburger from the list. You basically, you just take out the things that people can't afford to buy anymore, and you say, oh, well, those aren't really, people are living without them, so they're not really necessities. You don't have to factor the price of those things into the actual cost of living. And long ago, they removed the cost of energy and transportation from the list. Who can live without electricity or some way to get to work? And it doesn't matter how much these things rise in price, that doesn't affect the official cost of living index. It's all just sleight of hand and bullshit that can be done with statistics. Well, I've since closed the tab, Ben Rubber, so I can't help you find that Twitter account. And I need to stay off of Twitter. You got me on the inflation part, but that's because the amount of money in circulation. So if you raise the minimum wage, you're actually making the situation worse. Les, the U.S. federal government has doubled the U.S. money supply over the past couple of years. Most of that money, almost none of that money really is going to workers. Workers are getting less because the amount that the dollar buys is decreasing. Not as it hasn't, we haven't had a doubling of prices, even though we've had a doubling of the money supply, because most of that money it never passes through the hands of people who buy stuff. Most of it goes to support asset prices for wealthy people and for big corporations. So, there's not a one-to-one correlation between the amount of money in circulation and prices that people pay for things like food and rent and healthcare. Because most of the people who need these things don't see any of this newly created money. It's not circulating in the economy. And yeah, velocity is exactly what I'm talking about here. My increasing money supply when the velocity of money might even be decreasing. Right. Exactly. Yes, of course you know that term of art, velocity. All right, now, all of these tabs Go back to the other screen. All right. And we'll warm up in Fresco. Oh, I don't want a virtual keyboard. I just want to type. .1080 by 1080. That's the standard size for a Twitter post to Twitter. Come on, there we go. Alrighty. Any suggestions on what I should draw? As always, I will not draw on a blank white canvas. You know, the white page is the bane of writers, or it used to be, and now it's the white screen. So I find that a very helpful first step is just to make it a different color. Now it's a pink page. Alrighty. We can't do gradients in this program, but I can simulate them. It looks like I have a plan, right? I'm doing this with such speed and confidence. No plan. Actually, I think I'm going to do a repeat of yesterday, where I just took the selection tool and I just made some sort of random shape. And so we've got a sort of pinkish purple background, so we just go to the opposite side of the color wheel. Ooh, green. I don't see that working. Let's go to this light blue, this greenish blue. And we'll just fill that shape. And then we grab an eraser. And what shape do we want the eraser to be? No, we'll just go with that one. All right, so. Ooh, not that big though. Goodness. Then we just start carving away at it. Maybe some recognizable shape will emerge. Or not. All right. Les, as far as I can recall, you've never made a suggestion for something that I should read on the stream here. Are there any blogs that you follow? Oh, sorry, I haven't looked at your comments recently. Gonna go swim in the pool. Okay, take care, Ben. Draw a fox sleeping in a curled up circle. My Belgian, what is that, Malinois dog sleeps in that shape, and my wife and I call it the cinnamon bun because of her fur color. Do you have any photos? I would love to, rather than draw a made up fox, just actually look at an image of your dog and do a drawing based on that. The Bears and the Liberals thing. Say more about that. That's not just Bears and Liberals is not bringing anything to mind. I mostly read in Polish. Yeah, sure, of course. All right, well, no organic type shape is emerging here. It's just sort of abstract. All right. Put something underneath here. Darn, can't find any cinnamon bun pics. This is cool, though. Let's have a look. Oh, I love dogs. Don't know if I mentioned that before. Oh, but now you've got me on Instagram. Goodness. The crypto curator started following me. Oh, I'm already following him, so I don't need to follow back. And Sketchpad by JM started following me. Well, let's have a look at that. See if it's anything I want to look at daily. More superhero type stuff. Nah, not really. Sorry, Sketchpad by Jim. Nothing personal. There was an article one time I had you read, and you were kind enough to do so, about the libertarians, sorry, not liberals, who decided to make a small town in New. Oh, right. Yep. Yes, and of course it was a disaster. Yes. Mm-hmm. I had forgotten that was your contribution. Thank you for that. All right, now let's put a sort of glow behind this, like a yellow, pale yellow. And we'll use, is there like a airbrush? Mixing brushes, marker, lettering, ink, FX. What kind of FX do we get? Clouds. Yeah. All right. It's kind of cool. Oh, we do have a paint bucket. So I think if I'm going to lighten this up in the background, I'll darken the blue shape in front. But I would like to have something in here which is, at least has a face, some eyes or something, just to give immediate psychological interest. Oh, a dog. A dog would be great, actually. Oh, hey, I see a shape. I see something pretty cool, actually. All right. So let's see if we can get a good time lapse out of this so far. Right, they had a problem with bears because trash was piling up, right? All right. Let's export that. We'll call it teal on purple time lapse. And let's not put this under Instagram just yet. It's not ready for Instagram. Let's put it under live stream drawings. Nope, it's not 2020 anymore. That year is done. March. There we go. All right. Now. Oh, that's a gorgeous dog. She heard that every day, LOL. I went with a friend of mine to buy a dog, and instead he brought it home. Ha ha. Now I get all the benefits when I visit and none of the responsibility. Ha ha. Okay. Be back in a bit for real this time, maybe. Take care, Ben. All right. So let's flatten this. Or you know what? I'll just do a screenshot. Control print screen. piece I want. Oh, no. What happened to my print screen? Let's try again. Control, print screen. Okay, that's not working. So, we'll do it like this. How do we flatten the image? No. Here. Add, hide, clear, delete, paste, duplicate, cut, cut. Create empty mask, mask layer contents, lock transparency, merge down. Okay, got to do it one at a time. Merge down. Come on. Merge down. Merge down. All right. Now, this is squiggly thing source. All right, now start a new one. I'll import a file, and it shall be the squiggly thing source. Now we make it, oh, it's not constrained. Let's see. Right. Now, can I not manipulate the selection? Transform. Cannot transform selected content. Why not? On this layer type. Why not? Can I rasterize it? Huh. Convert to pixel layer. Using non-standard. I wonder if inking tattoos pays well. Well, if you're good at it. Looks like a pattern for a tattoo. Okay, KMO, catch you later. A friend called that he's on his way, so I gotta go. I gotta get ready. Cheerio. All right, there we go. All right, done. All right, now. Okay. Too big. So what is this dude? I don't know yet. Do not know. Too big. Too small. Better. Nope. There we go. Now I don't want to transform it. Oh, la, 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 la. Meow, meow, meow. Alright, this is longer than I had planned to play around in this program, but this will give me stuff to work with Motion Leap or some other motion graphics app. I should experiment with other motion graphics apps. I might want to make stickers of this guy. I don't know what he is, but he's weird looking. He's certainly weird looking. Alright. What happens if we get a time lapse of this? Meow. All right. Now let's do one more layer here. Let's turn this one off. He's a jug of some kind. All right. Right. All right. Time to do actual billable work. So, go away, Fresco. Oh, Ahsoka. I fear your Rosario Dawson incarnation will be short-lived. Fluidity Gallery. Mm-hmm. Right. No 3. Where's 103? What? Come on. There. It's the top one on the list. Duh. All right. I think I'm getting close to being done with this. Let's turn on the tab mate. Well, got a puking cat. What's she puking on? Oh, on the linoleum floor. Oh, that's a welcome change. On the carpet for round 2? Just stay in the linoleum, please. Yep, there. Yuck, yuck, yuck. All right, hold on. All right. Cat puke attended to. Oh, but now I need more coffee. Anything but work. All right, get this done. You've got to be kidding me, says Pix. Let's get the white of her eyes first. And the white of her teeth. And then tongue. All right, now. Oh, why? There we go. Up. Down. All right, so. Oh, crap. Before I can do that, I gotta make sure this base layer is solid. All right, is that everything? All right. So now the light is coming from a dash. So sort of from below. Let's see. Base lit from below. Images. Reference. All right, so let's bring all this over here. I'll show you what I'm looking at. That's a nice reference. Or, oh, I really like that. Or that. Huh. Mouth open. Switching small. Ooh, look at that. I mean, that looks sinister. I think that one's going to be my reference. So just know that I'm going to have this on the other screen. All right. So it's not going to be as dramatic as that. But let's select it and start with the dark. I'm going to make it a little darker than that. There we go. Now, okay, so normally the bridge of the nose is lit. Here it's going to be dark. some darkness at the top of her cheeks. What a bigger pen. Back here will be dark. And then there's some darkness here, but then it's going to be bright up there. Dark up here. But her neck's going to be pretty well lit. Dark over here. And over the top of her mouth. The bottom of her nose is really well lit. Let's do Derek. Oh, so I have no human face reference and no reference for a face his shape, but it's pretty similar. It's just kind of the reverse of the normal shading. So normally this is dark, so now it'll be light. So let's see, dark. What's going on? Oh, it's not a brush. That's what's going on. There we are. That. All right. This one I have already shaded in the usual fashion. So let's just grab the base color the bass tone, I should say. Get rid of that. And just do that. And start over. Yeah. All right. There we go. And on the bottom too. Let's see. Nope, wrong one. Normally that would be correct. Ooh, that's too dark. That one. It's my iPad telling me. Alexa, flash briefing.
KMO, here's more from your flash briefing. From BBC World Service. Hello, this is Danielle Jałowiecka with the BBC News. Countries in Europe are facing a crisis brought about by a surge in the number of coronavirus infections and a shortage of the vaccines that can mitigate the spread of the disease. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel said it was probable that restrictions lifted only a fortnight ago would now have to be reimposed.
Wir haben ja damals vereinbart, steigt die 7-Tage-Inzidenz.
We agreed that should the 7-day incidence rate exceed 100 per 100,000 people in a region or state, we will go back to the restrictions which were in place on the 7th of March. We call it the emergency brake. I hoped that we could get by without this, but sadly, looking at the development of the past few days, this won't be possible.
Entwicklung der letzten Tage anschaue.
Two of Germany's neighbours, France and Poland, reintroduced partial lockdowns on Saturday. A health ministry spokesman in Warsaw said the UK contagious variant will soon reach 80% of all cases in the country. Mark Easton reports. We'll come back to that when we can. The White House says President Biden knows relations with China will be tough and competitive, but he still wants both sides to work together when it is in their mutual interests. Mr. Biden said he was proud of the way his Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was handling the meetings. A second day of talks is now underway. Barbara Plett-Usher is there.
Top diplomats from the US and China have resumed their meetings. This is their third session. They stuck to the planned schedule despite a testy start. The Biden administration had said it was looking for straight talk rather than talking points, but it got more than an hour of verbal jousting on dueling agendas and incompatible positions. No agreements had been expected. Rather, the goal is to set limits to areas of rivalry and mark out areas for cooperation. U.S. officials said there were substantive discussions after things cooled down, and President Biden has voiced approval for his team's approach.
That was Barbara Plett-Usher reporting. President Biden has stumbled several times as he was walking up the steps of Air Force One to board a flight from Washington. Recovering once, Mr. Biden stumbled a second time, falling onto one knee before reaching the door. His Deputy Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, told reporters that her 78-year-old boss was 100% fine. She hinted that strong winds may have been a contributing factor to the president losing his footing. You're listening to the World News from the BBC. Prosecutors in Bulgaria have charged 6 officials from Russia's defense ministry and military intelligence with spying. Bulgaria's chief prosecutor, Ivan Gyashov, said a former Bulgarian intelligence officer used his wife, who had joint nationality, as the intermediary between the spy ring and an official at the Russian embassy in Sofia. The BBC says it's extremely concerned about one of its reporters in Myanmar, Aung Thu Ya, who's been abducted in the capital, Naypyidaw. The BBC said it was doing all it could to find the Burmese service reporter. Rebecca Henschke reports.
Aung Thu Ya, who works for BBC Burmese, was reporting outside a district court in the capital, Naypyidaw, when a group of men dressed in civilian clothes took him away in an unmarked van. The head of the BBC's international services, Mary Hockaday, says all attempts to contact him since have failed.
We're very concerned. We are urging the Burmese authorities to help us identify where he is and confirm that he's safe.
A reporter from the local news group Mizima was taken with him. The military and police are using increasingly violent tactics to suppress any form of dissent. Another 9 people were killed today.
A prominent Nigerian activist has called for the creation of a separate nation for the Yoruba ethnic group. Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, said growing insecurity meant there was no longer any reason for the Yoruba to remain part of Nigeria. Police in Cambodia say they are investigating a property tycoon after video was posted online of him assaulting his former wife. Zuang Chai was shown beating Det Malina, dragging her by the hair, kicking her and pushing aside their children and her parents. The attack lasted an hour. He has apologised for the incident, which he said took place after his former wife forced him to have a vasectomy. That's the latest BBC News. In NPR News.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Bose, introducing Bose Sleep Buds 2. These tiny, comfortable earbuds deliver relaxing sounds to help you fall asleep and use Bose noise-masking technology for staying asleep. Preview at bose.com/NPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. President Biden says the U.S. needs to be ready for viral emergencies like COVID-19 even after the pandemic has subsided. Accompanied by Vice President Harris, the president stopped at CDC headquarters in Atlanta for a status report, and he said the nation owed a debt of gratitude to scientists there.
And we will for a long, long, long time, because I hope this is the beginning and the end of not paying attention to what's going to come again and again and again and again. We can build all the walls we want. We can have the most powerful armies in the world. But we cannot stop. We cannot stop these viruses.
The president says he carries an index card in his pocket with the latest count of Americans taken by the coronavirus, estimated by Johns Hopkins University researchers now at more than 540,000. President Biden and Vice President Harris are preparing now to meet with leaders of the Asian American community in Atlanta. This on the heels of the shooting of 8 people by a white gunman. 6 of the dead were Asian American women. FBI Director Christopher Wray is saying that he does not think that the suspect in the Atlanta area shootings had racial motivations. As NPR's Carrie Johnson reports, the FBI has a supporting role in the shooting investigation.
FBI Director Wray says the murders of 8 people in Atlanta this week hit close to home, since he spent much of his adult life in that area. Wray says the Bureau is supporting Atlanta police and the Cherokee County Sheriff as they investigate what he called a heartbreaking incident. The FBI Director says the shootings do not appear to be racially motivated, even though the alleged murderer apparently targeted Asian spa businesses and 6 women of Asian descent were killed.
He targeted sex workers. They're not going to say that one time in this whole report, are you?
Charges. Carrie Johnson, NPR News, Washington.
Alexa,
the judge
pause.
In the murder.
So NPR, of course, they're going to race bait this all to hell. The guy was a religious fanatic. He was killing not random Asian women. He was killing women who worked at a massage parlor. I forget what it was called, like the Happy Ending Spa or something. I mean, the name of the place just made it very clear that, this is a place to get off. They're not going to mention that. No, it's going to be 100% race. So fuck you, NPR, and the horse you rode in on, regardless of what color that horse is. Alexa, continue. Alexa, continue. All right. Fucking NPR. Okay, this one's going to be a little different because the iPad's over here and he's turning away from it. So it's going to be more side to side than up and down. Let's see. Just like that. No need to complicate it. Alrighty, let's grab that one. And that one. Again. Below and alright, and once more. All right. Wrong one. All right. Okay. Delete. That's the one I need to do. There we go. Oh, and I've already... Well, I can work with that, actually. That one I can work with. Character... ink. Character tones. There we go. Okay, first up. Oh, wrong one. Jimbo Peck, Shockface. How are you? Taking a break from working on your comic. What's your comic? I'd have you post a link here, but I don't think that YouTube will let you post links in the chat. But if you tell me the name of it, I'll search for it. What did I just do? It's a comic based on characters from my universe about shapeshifters. Jimbo, have you commented here using a different username? You're Rodney, are you? what's going on here. It's not very light. What's going on? A little better. No, I'm Jim. Okay. Fair enough. There's a guy named Rodney who sometimes pops into the chat who also has a comic about shapeshifters. Where can your comic be found? What's happening here? What's preventing me? Oh, that's what's happening. There we go. Are his cursed as mine? I don't know. Don't know anything about your characters other than what you told me just now. Mine's cursed with random stuff like you see in One Piece. All right, I think we're getting close to done here. Nope. So let's do this a bit differently. Okay, now. Oh, I suppose a little shading in his hoodie here is in order. Up and down. The comic here. This is Geb. Geb.io. Here, I'll send it to the website. I'm a little too caught up in what I'm doing right here to give you the full spiel. Well, apparently YouTube will not let me post links today. Well, it's geb.io, Gebb.io. It's about aliens. Aliens who love the Earth but hate their job. Or jobs, I suppose I should say. What's happening? I don't have that selected. That's what's happening. And I don't know much about Rodney. He doesn't say much when he shows up. But he has posted images of his characters before. They tend to be rather gender bendy. All right, now do highlights and tones on her and a couple more panels. Whoa, that's too dark. What's going on? No, that's what I was using. Let's see. Let's go with that. Yeah. Oh, I just noticed her boom mic is missing from this panel. All right. Let's see. Do we have a sketch layer under there? All this stuff. Oh, where's that gradient if not under background tones? Cockpit tones? Nope. No. Where is that layer? Oh, I didn't. I did. Shoot. Okay. Right. Uh-oh. Shit. It's to go above the background tones. I'll just put it way up here at the top. Right there. Okay. Give me a sec. It's bold LA. All right, what layer is that on? Tones. Character tones. All right, save. Save and export. Let's make it a TIFF. Three. What am I doing? Strips, print, 103, save. So, All right, everybody. It's 5:02. I'm signing out.